Do you know both communism and fascism originated in Europe and gained popularity in early to mid 20th century. So if we talk about the communism, so communism is actually a system based around the theory of economic equality and advocates for a classless society. So if we talk about the fascism, so fascism is actually a nationalistic top-down system with a rigid class rules that is ruled by all-powerful dictator. So hey everyone, I am Awinash Kumar and today we will study the differences between communism and fascism. So if we talk about communism, so it supports the idea of all the resources and property being controlled and owned by the state or a particular community. So their sole aim is to control or distribute the resources among the people in the community according to their needs. But in opposite to that, fascism did not outrightly support the idea of distribution of resources. Instead, it focuses on building the self-reliant nation. But if we talk about communism, so a classless society was the major goal of communism, where there existed no difference between the owners of the production and the wealthy and the poor people. There is no thin line between a labor or a wealthy people. So if we talk about the fascism, on the other hand, had a firm class role. Every member of the community had the specific roles and duties to fulfill. It also advocated a strong sense of nationalism. If we talk about communism, so they wanted a control of the resources and distribution among its people. Hence, the production control was under the state only. Fascism always want self-sufficient or self-reliant nation to survive and not to be in the trade with the other countries. Hence, they did not mind the idea of private enterprises entering into the production. So communism always wanted the idea to abolish the private ownership and property. But in opposite to that, fascism permitted its existence on the grounds of its usefulness to the states, full control of the state, and did not specifically mean dictatorship under one person. But on the other hand, fascism always wanted national unity to the prime importance and the strong sense of pride. So consequently, it deployed cruel methods of the suppression and oppressed because they want the nationalism. This was possible only through the strong leadership and hence permitted the formation of dictatorship. So if we talk about communism, so gender equality was not much of that issue. So people were allowed to work irrespective of their genders. But in opposite to that, fascism supported traditional gender roles. Men were to work and go for the war as usual. On the other hand, women were expected to procreate because they were the key to racial and national unity. So if we talk about communism, so the fear of class oppression sparked the rise of the communism. But fascism, on the other hand, wanted to stop the oppression as a nation, and hence the fascism started. So if we talk about communism, resonates with the personalities such as Karl Marx, a German philosopher, and Vladimir Lenin, a prime minister of the USSR, that is Soviet Union. If we talk about fascism, so Benito Mussolini comes first. He was the Italian dictator. If we talk about the other examples, so Dollfuss, he was the Chancellor of Australia, and the Gentile, he was the Italian philosopher. So these are the prime examples of both of the cases. So communism these days existed in countries such as the China, Russia during the Stalin regime, and North Korea, the dictator one, and Cuba. But in opposite to that, fascism had existed in the countries such as Germany and the Italy. In a nutshell, I want to say both fascism and communism are against the democratic process, but with some differences. So fascist looks down upon the parliamentary democracy. So fascists like Hitler and Mussolini participated in the electoral politics before coming to the power. So after seizing power, fascist leaders tended to abolish the political parties, oppose the universal suffrage, and became the dictators, and rule suffers for the life. But in opposite to that, if we talk about communist countries, so communist countries, democracy might be the path to the power, but the single party rule is prevailing tendency. Although elections may continue to held, a country's communist party is often the only body eligible to place the candidate on the ballot. Leadership of the party is usually based upon the seniority rather than a merit. A central ruling committee within the party governs the debate and allowing or disallowing it, I mean the same, and essentially establish the line of the party follows. Although communism preaches inclusion, the tendency is towards the elitism and concentration of the power within the party leadership alone. If you want to view a modern example of communism and fascism, so recent far left dictatorship including the USSR and its peer throughout the Eastern Europe, only 5 nations presently have the communist government, that is China, North Korea, Cuba, Laos, and Russia. If you talk about the fascist one, far right dictatorship include the Republic of Chile along the Augusto and the Republic of the Argentina under the John Perón. there are presently no openly fascist governments coming into the existence. If you want to study some literatures, so Communist Manifesto, Das Kapital, The State and the Revolution, Jungle Reform, these are the important literature when it comes to communism. And if you want to read some literatures regarding fascism, so the doctrine of the fascism, Fascism Manifesto, Mein Kampf, autobiography, the myth of the 20th century, the last will of the Russian fascist, you can read this. So now hope you understand the difference between communism and fascism, and now you can easily differentiate. Thank you so much.